Happy Monday, friends. We are here. Monday is here. The week is starting, and it's good to have you guys pop up here on this impromptu stream. Um, Usually on Mondays, I have an unboxing, but nothing came. Nothing came last week in the mail. And so sadly, I have nothing to unbox. But that's okay. I have plenty of comic books and books to read and a lot of backlog. That could be a whole show in and of itself, a backlog of what I need to read, what I need to catch up on. But I will catch up here on the chat. First in the chat, Comrade Sammy. Like literally when I pressed that button, she was in. So congratulations. And then all of a sudden she got nervous because she thought, oh shoot, it's just me. So that's a what do you call that? It's a part of the job, not part of the job, but the job hazard of being first in chat, where you got to make awkward conversation with me, and I'm all about the awkward conversation. Oh, you guys know, yeah, you guys know my good friend Marty. One of the things that we always tell each other, because we're talking about like, we're on this journey of in life together, and I appreciate having somebody like him to walk with. But one of Marty's mottos that he's told me and we've embraced as friends is you got to embrace the awkward. Like life is just awkward. It's comprised of so many awkward situations. So you got to embrace it. I'm even thinking of making a t-shirt for just me and Marty that says embrace the awkward. Because I think it's such a true phrase. And when you embrace the awkward, when you accept the fact that life is just a bunch of awkward moments tacked together, then it doesn't make it so awkward. And you don't expect it to be comfortable. You don't expect it to be normal. And you can kind of roll with the punches a little bit better. But for sure, embrace the awkward, Comrade Sammy, because I'm all about the awkward. Mark's Music Obsession is here. Hey, Mark, how are you? Hope you had a good weekend. Hope your mom is doing well. Hope you had some time on the boat. I did get a good bike ride in the last couple of days because we had a beautiful, beautiful weather. It's kind of cloudy today. Well, maybe the sun is peeking through. I actually, just an insider scoop, I actually put like a dark shade down when I stream just so I can get these lights looking pretty nice in the background. And so yeah, I don't have a clear view of the weather outside, but I do see some sunlight peeking through. So it was kind of cloudy earlier today, but now the sun is coming through, so that's great. Cranberry Langers was here. He said, "How dare you, Rocky?" Because he has to go pick up a package, I think, at some apartment. Where did he say that? Yep, here he is. So sorry, Cranberry. The timing's bad. My apologies. I mean, when Monday, I always felt like Monday was a good day to stream, but it does seem to be like an awkward thing. I don't know, people ramping back into the work week, East Coast, West Coast time. Tell me what you guys think. I do like Mondays. Mondays works for me in my schedule, at least around this time. Said it's probably a book, which is great. Hopefully it's a comic book. I'd love to see that. Oh, and if you do come back soon, Cranberry, I want to talk to you a little bit about I checked out for those of you who don't know, Cranberry Langers, that's going to always trip me up. Sometimes he streams with some friends and I think his brother, and I watched one of them last week and it was really good, talking about Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special. It was awesome. It was so funny, and Cranberry he is passionate about the things he loves, so it was great to watch that. Everybody's saying hello. Mark's Music Obsession says, hello, hey, Comrade Sammy. My phone still isn't pushing notifications. If I wouldn't have by chance opened the app, I wouldn't have known. Oh, yeah, so maybe, I know there's different settings for the notifications, Mark's Music Obsession, so maybe double check them. I mean, not to say that you always need to be notified when I stream, but I do remember that there are some like notifications that say like notify me all the time or notify me sometimes, or I think there's a couple of settings there that you can pick. So yeah, just double check that and see. Maybe something is clicked wrong. So kindly relinquish the first in award. Mark's music obsession was doing a construction project and thank goodness took a break. Well, cool. Yeah, check those notifications, Mark, and see. It might be a different setting. Maybe not. Cranberry Lander says it's Gabe Altib's All-American Lawman. Maybe. Oh, the book you got. Oh, okay, cool. Neat. Cool. That's cool. I'd love to know what you thought about that. I'll save the dumb questions for when said awkward comes to pass. Cranberry Lander says, I got a bike ride in. I got given a bike for free on Sunday. The lights look good in the background. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm always trying to, I'm always trying to change up the colors. I don't know if you guys notice. I change up the colors every time. Kind of ridiculous about that. For the Superman review, I did colors that were kind of Superman-ish. It's just me. I love that kind of stuff. I love production. I love details like that. So thanks for noticing. That's great. You got a bike ride in, and yeah, I enjoyed it. There was a point where there's a stretch of road that they block off on the weekends. You know, it started during the pandemic and they've kept it permanent now. They block it off, but it goes right by the beach. So I was biking by the beach yesterday and it was beautiful. I just had to stop, take it in, look at the sunset, take a picture, send it to my family. Yeah, it was beautiful, really beautiful. And it really kind of calms me down. It relaxes me. I feel like I'm exercising a bit. So it was great. I'm glad you enjoyed. Okay, so okay. Awesome, you're back, and yeah, that show was awesome. Is that your brother that's with you, Wilhelm Scream? Is that your brother? You don't have to say if you don't want to, but I thought it was. But it was just great. It was awesome to see just you talk about that show, and there's a lot of similar opinions I had with you on it, and I know it was a while ago when it came out, but yeah, it was fun just to see you have a commentary on Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, and but you got into it, man, and I was like, you're the real deal, the real fan. It was a beautiful thing. Mark's music obsession says yesterday's weather was terrible and windy today. I have all notifications set to always push, even on lock screen. Huh? Sure. Yeah, I don't know what it is. So even more so, I appreciate you showing up because you're not getting these notifications. But thank you. We're talking about doing another episode on a comic-themed movie coming out sooner. All right, cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Do it. So is that your brother? And then who's the other guy? Is that just a friend? He's great too. I love you guys all have different takes, different personalities that you inject into it. It was awesome. John, the only stupid questions are the ones to which you do not listen to the answer. Wow, that's a different take on. I've heard the only stupid questions are the ones you don't ask, but I like which you do not listen to the answer. And welcome, John. Good to see you. You're back. The running theme for the last couple of streams was where is John? We missed you, man. But you're back, so good. John's working his way back up in the ranks of number one in chat. Catching up 2.5 minutes out. No problemo. You can skip forward 2.5 minutes because the past 2.5 minutes were Nah, I definitely have stupid questions that would make you question. Yeah, I know when people say there's no stupid questions and then somebody asks a stupid question, they're like, well, maybe there are some stupid questions. Cranberry Lander says, I'm a very passionate geek. It's awesome. It's really, really awesome. And that's actually something I'm going to talk about today. And I'll tell you guys in a second what I'm planning on doing and why I decided to stream. But yes, the fandom, the passion behind the fandom as you guys are all aware of and participate in, that pendulum can swing strong in different directions. And I think that's what makes it fandom, right? So if you look at the bigger picture, it's because people care so much, whether they feel ownership in the characters, whether, it's the nostalgia of it, whatever. That fandom, it just burns deep, and it permeates in comic books and movies and television shows and whatever it is, music. But yeah, it's a kind of a fun roller coaster to ride a little bit. It can get gnarly, but it can also be a thrill when the excitement is really high. So yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit later. The notification was late. Cranberry Langer says, that's one of my brothers. The other guy's a friend I've had for about a decade. Awesome. There's nothing like close friends. That's where I think the fandom can truly come out, when you really know the other people. You know that even if your opinions are differing, or you call each other, idiots for liking one thing that you don't like, you know that the friendship will still be there. I think it's when we start slinging poo and we start tearing other people down that we don't really know, and just based on their opinion on the fandom of whatever it is, that's when it gets really, I don't know. That's where it turns super negative for me, and I'm not that keen on it. Oh, I gotta remember to, excuse me, put on my chapstick. It's one of the things I noticed about myself. So yeah, that fandom, I think that fandom with friends, like, so for example, my friend Shant, or other friends that I have, that we talk about geeky things. We can disagree for sure, and we can get heated about our disagreements, but we know that friendship still stands. So I'm all for that. The part I admire is you assume I'm not already questioning your sanity. John. Comrade Sammy says, yeah, you missed it when Rocky entered his rebellious phase as a YouTuber a couple streams. Oh my gosh. Your timing as of late, Rocky, has hit my schedule awkwardly. Here now. Sorry. I know. I'm trying to figure it out. I don't know. It's so random. It's random when I try and be somewhat regular with the stuff I do. Somewhat. And it's nice that Wednesdays for comics kind of gives me an anchor, whether I'm going to the store or producing a video or whatever. It gives me a little bit of an anchor to build around. And then usually I get something in the mail, and that's why I do unboxings on Mondays. But yeah, it's random. I apologize. I hope to be able to hit a schedule and a point where everybody can always come all the time. And I think that's the mix of like live streaming and regular videos, right? Regular videos, I mean, even live streams you can watch on your own time, but regular videos, at least view as you will. But yeah, it's awesome to have you, John, live here in the chat. So maybe I'll try and mix it up on my side, and maybe that'll fit with your schedule better. Don't forget the like, folks. Mark's Music Obsession, you are officially the like police in chat, which I love. I like that you're the like police. He got struck by the YouTube because, oh yes. Yeah, if you want to call that rebellious, I got struck by YouTube for the first time, which was bound to happen, right? Knowing my tech problems. I was talking about the Dick Tracy book, and I wanted to stream a couple clips from the movie, and like within 5 seconds, it was like, nope. And then I panicked, but the chat, fortunately, I had the chat there to like walk me through and tell me to hang on because the stream would start back again, and it did. So it's awesome. Hey, Emo Trash, you are semi here. Drawing on another tab. Awesome. That's great. That's a great combo of watching YouTube and doing something in the side. It's like the new podcast. So yeah, awesome that you are here. I hope your midterms, did you finish all your midterms? I hope they ended up well. That stuff is always stressful, but glad to see you here. Everybody's saying hello. Nerds disagree, say it ain't so. I agree on the trashing people thing. I think I leave things to avoid it. Yeah, I mean, some people really lean into the conflict, and that's just their personality types. Um, I'm I'm reading this book. Have you guys heard of enneagrams? Like, I even shudder to like bring up the subject because it's kind of it's really touchy, and I'm very like "Ugh," with it. But I've started reading this book about enneagrams, and one of the personality types, I can't even remember which one was. They just love the conflict. They love the pushback, and so they lean into the debates. They lean into it, and they have really thick skin to the point where it's like it doesn't affect them. They can be done with it, and then everything's cool. The problem is when they lean into it and somebody else doesn't, then you can really turn off a lot of people or turn off the other person, and that's a bad mix. But it happens all the time. So yeah, I'm not a very much. I don't lean into conflict. There's enough conflict in my life that I don't like to look for it. But when it comes to fandom, it's fun to debate certain things. And again, if it's with good friends or family or whatever, and you know that the relationship could withstand that debate, then by all means go for it, because we all love to be passionate about the things we love to be passionate about. Emo Trash says, not much. Midterms are finally over as spring break is also over. Oh, yeah, spring break. Oh, nice. We haven't hit spring break for my kids yet, but we will soon. So I'm excited about that. Cranberry Landers says, I'm going to lurk for this. Cool, cool. Hello, hello. Till finals in April or maybe May. Yeah, oof. It's a nonstop. John says, thanks. Appreciate that. Yep, John, you are king in my book. Mark's Music Obsession says, anytime between 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. works for me every day. I would most likely miss any later than that. Yeah, I know you're the early bird. Well, not really the early bird, but yes, you like your sleep. I respect that you guard that time to I need to turn off the screen now. I need to go to bed. There's some people out there that don't, and not to drop names like Shanth, but other people too. I'm just amazed at people, the crazy hours that people show up for streams. It's amazing. Mark's sleeping up. Nice. No conflict? I disagree, Rocky. Well, I disagree with you too, John. Take that. Oh my gosh. It's tough for us early bird old folks. Oh, okay. So maybe also, it sounds like you're also an early bird person. I am not. I am definitely not. Even if I do have to wake up for whatever reason, dropping off my kids or whatever I have to do in the morning for work. Yeah, I am not a morning person at all. There's enough conflict in my life. Preach. All right, cool. Well, okay, guys. So what I was planning to do, for about an hour or so, if it takes that long, is I finished editing the My Wednesday Comics on the book that you all voted for me to go deeper on. I ended up calling it My Wednesday Comics Closer Look. So that's the name I went with. I thought Deeper Dive sounded kind of weird and odd, but Closer Look is what I'm going with right now. So I finished editing that over the weekend, and it was actually really fun. And I was watching it, and I was like, wow, this turned out pretty cool. So what I'm going to do is I already uploaded it. I didn't make it public yet. After this live stream is over, I will make it public. But what I thought I was going to do is I'll do a little... I know that there's a... what do they call it? Premiere option for streams where people that I've seen people do before, and Cranberry Landers has mentioned this to me before, of you could premiere your video and then you have the chat going at the same time, and it's kind of like a watch along or whatever. But I decided to just loop that in with a stream because I wanted to do this interaction with you guys here up at the front. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the video, and I'll be watching with you guys on stream at the same time. I'll stop it and pause it if I need to say something about what I am talking about in the video. But yeah, I would love to see your guys' chat reaction, for those of you who can chat at the moment, your chat reaction on it or not. But I thought I would just watch that video with you guys. It's about 30-ish minutes and see what you think. But it was really interesting just going through this book. The book that was voted on, for those of you who remember, was Ultimate X-Men #1. Oops, I forgot to take it out of the baggie, so it might be a little reflective. And just sitting just with this one book and going through it and kind of processing through, I actually also edited in a couple of response videos that I found that I had been seeing in the news, comic news about it. I edited a couple of those in, and that's part of my commentary. So yeah, it's really interesting. And I also kind of came up with a couple category or a handful of categories of why ranking what I liked about the book and why. So that's kind of a new thing that I'm trying out for this closer look thing. So yeah, a bunch of new things and also the familiar flip through of a book, and was going to premiere that here. Let's see. Before we start, I'll just finish up here in the chat. Yeah, Sean's first live streams were random and at 4 a.m. and like every day for about 3 weeks. That's right. Yeah, he went on this tear of like streaming every day, like you said. Yeah, way early in the morning, which is, I think, John, you might be on the same time zone as Sean. Not for me, but I was like, this is really late for me. So it was like crazy late for him. He was like creeping into breakfast by the time he was done with the stream. So I don't know how he did that. It was insane. Don't worry, your cat. My stupid cat. This morning, my cat, I'll end with this and then I'll start the stream. My cat, so what we do sometimes to protect things on our counter, we can't leave anything out on our counter overnight because of my dumb cat. One of my dumb cats. But what we did, we had this like pastry bun, leftover pastry bun, and I wrapped it in aluminum foil, like hermeneutically sealed in aluminum foil, and put it on the counter. And this morning, my wife woke me up and she was like, what did you put on the counter? And I was like, what? And she was like, there was something in aluminum foil that you put on the counter. And I said, oh, it was the bun. And she was like, yeah, the cat got into it. I was like, what? And so I can imagine we will be seeing that on the other end shortly this day, because that's what an idiot he is. But so yeah, he did get into something. I do close my office at nights so that he can't get into it or get into my books. But sometimes he's a little jerk because I have a little seat for them to sit on off screen this way. And that seat is right next to my bookshelf. And that bookshelf has a bunch of books on the lower level, which is pretty much their height next to it. And I've noticed that some of the plastic on some of those books has like chew marks in the corners, because whenever I'm not looking, he will like take a bite out of it. Little jerk. Okay, same time zone. Okay, cool. Stream tip: if you start reading a comment, finish reading the comment. Think those like emo trash who was drawing. Great tip. Thank you. Don't talk so fast. Streaming tip. Was he the idiot or were you? I was the idiot. Thank you. Emo trash. I was the idiot. Every night I'm like, well, because they like to sleep in the office sometimes. And I'm like, is he really? And no, sure enough, he proves me wrong every time that he will go for it. Yeah. Yeah, it's gnarly. Okay, let me see. Let me switch here to the correct format. Let me make sure, or the correct window. Let me make sure I have it. Okay, so this is, wait, not that one, this one. Yes. Oh, weird. No, wrong window, guy. No, wrong one. No. Here. Boom. Okay. One of the things I put a little, okay, so when I start playing this, let me know that the volume level's okay and all that business. But I did have to put a little card here. I felt it was probably appropriate because I guess it didn't totally register with me as I was reading this book. But they talk about suicide in it a couple times. Like one of the friends of the main girl, well, yeah, there's suicide talk in that. And I was shocked because the book itself, I looked at the rating. I was like, surely the rating says it. It was rated T plus, I guess teen plus. So I was like, wow, did they not look at that closely? But anyway, I had to put this little ditty at the beginning just to make sure. Okay, let's start playing it, and let's go. Here we go. As some of you might know, I'm trying something a little bit different this week, where instead of talking about all the books that I picked up from the comic book store,
Let me know if the volume's okay.
I decided to live stream last night and ask you all to vote on which book you wanted me to review a little closer in this video. Well, the votes are in, and the winner is Ultimate X-Men #1 by Peach Momoko. So this is the book that we're going to look at today in what I like to call My Wednesday Comics Closer Look. All right, let's get right to it. So the first time I was exposed to Peach Momoko's artwork was she started doing a lot of variant covers for a whole bunch of different books in the Marvel Universe.
Nice,
They
thanks,
were really
Cranberry.
distinct. Obviously, her style is different than anything else out there. And I started noticing more and more that they were harder to find, her variants, and she was becoming more popular. It didn't take long for her to all of a sudden get her own book called Demon Days, which came out to a lot of attention. Basically, she's taking the ideas of the Marvel characters and the Marvel world.
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
and
I didn't.
mixing it together.
Cranberry
with
Lander says nice
Japanese mythology
caution at the beginning.
This was a really neat take and merging of Eastern and Western
I wasn't sure, but it felt
stories,
appropriate.
all in the Peach Momoko style. Her artwork is beautiful, and she's kind of a one-stop shop. She's not just penciling and inking the book, but she's also painting it in these kind of gorgeous watercolor finishes. She also got another limited series called Demon Wars, which I haven't read yet, and just borrowed this one from the library, and I'm pretty excited to go through this. But again, some of the same similar stuff where mixing Japanese mythology and Marvel world. So when it was announced that she was getting her own book, Ultimate X-Men, I think everybody was very excited knowing what she had already produced. However, the reaction when this book came out last week was really mixed and very strong.
Oh, okay, John.
I'll talk about more of that in the wrap-up.
Hang on a second.
I think
if I do
maybe
that,
going through this book, I'm
can't
actually
see
glad that
my
it got voted to be
screen.
reviewed this week because
it's a little
hopefully
complicated.
going through it, it'll help me understand a little bit more why
Let me
it
try.
got such a strong reaction,
Wait.
both positive and negative. The thing that we started seeing more in Demon Wars and Demon Days was that she was also a writer. She's not just an artist.
Oh, okay.
Now, Peach Momoko is
Is that better?
Japanese-based
See, now I
artist. She's
can't
from
see.
Japan.
Well,
And based on videos and some interviews I've read with her, English is not her first language. And so she struggles a little bit to speak
cool.
English. So she
Thanks,
works
John.
a lot with this person, Zach Davison, from my understanding. He kind of translates a lot of her stuff and works with her on most all her projects, I think, that she's come out with so far. I wonder, as I was reading this book, if part of the problem is there's a little bit of a lost in translation. She's coming from a very unique perspective. She's coming from Japan and all the cultural things that come with that. And then she's being brought here to speak to a Western audience that has their own cultural biases and all that. I don't think it's any surprise that the world that she lives in, the world that she brings and injects into her own work, has a very Eastern, specifically Japanese lens to it. So from the get-go, here we are in a middle school, and you see all these characters. You already know that you're like in a Japanese middle school. There's like cherry blossoms flowing in the air. There's the uniforms, which we see in so much of manga and anime of, you know, this kind of middle school girl world. So it's pretty familiar to those of you who are exposed to that kind of stuff. To a Western audience, it looks different. You know, we don't walk around in these kind of uniforms necessarily. They keep all the Japanese signage in the book, which is great. I think, you know, she definitely should be working from her background. But they also give like translations here. So you're already knowing that you're dealing with this like cultural difference. One of the things that she does do, and this is a very manga technique, is they do these little like sound effects here in Japanese, and they're not in word bumbles or everything, but they're up here and here and here. And it's, you know, it's kind of an interesting way. I've seen it translated in certain English versions of different manga that have been brought here to America. I've seen them like translate that to English, but they didn't do that here. They kept it in Japanese. And I don't know. One of the things I was wondering too, because Peach Momoko is to answer your comment, or to reply to your comment, John. Peach Momoko is Japanese, and yeah, they do have a bad suicide epidemic. And I think I don't know if it's the culture is so intense or like the work culture is really crazy, but I've heard that as well. But the one thing I was wondering was, since Peach Momoko is Japanese, but she's drawing this for a Western audience, so it's left to right, top down. I know there's a lot of manga when they release it, like the books, they release it so that you have to read it like the Japanese do, which is right to left, you know, back to front, or the books are flipped. So I've seen varying degrees of translation where, like, I've seen different versions of Akira, the graphic novel or the manga for Akira, where they flipped panels and then they decided that wasn't a good idea, so then they went back to the original format and all this kind of stuff. Like, it was really crazy. But I think the trend now is that we read it the way the Japanese read it, and they give you a little key at the beginning of each book of like, this is how you should read it. This is the direction you should read the panels. So for her, I wonder if she's drawing this as we see it, so it's for a Western audience, or if they're reversing it, or what, or if this is like natural, because there's so much of, when you draw a comic panel, of directionality and leading your eye from this panel to this panel. And if you have to flip that and that wasn't natural to you, I wonder how it would affect the artwork. I just thought of that as I was kind of thinking about the book. I didn't bring it up in this video. See, when I go full screen though, then I can't see your comments. Well, I can see them, but I can't put them up screen. Wow, does that matter? It does matter. Let me just, the comments are, it's like an Elseworlds world story. I think so. Yeah, I think that's kind of how they are treating these, maybe. Like, it's not canon necessarily. I don't know. Actually, that's a good question. Even in the US now. They have intense social issues to be like everyone else, not individualistic, and remind people of how they fail often. Oh, for Japanese culture? I can see that. Yeah, so it's like a pressure cooker, that it sounds like. I mean, so many great things come out of Japan and that culture, but yeah, it definitely feels like a pressure cooker. So, okay, let's keep going. I guess I'll flip to full screen. Well, yeah, I'll flip to full screen here and there and jump back and forth. John says, my theory, Japan has more of a collectivist mindset versus, there you go. Kind of what Cranberry was just saying. Therapy is shunned for mental health. Yeah. It's intense. It's really intense. There you go. You guys are in tune. All right, here we go. If it was because it was part of the artwork and they didn't want to alter the artwork, I didn't know if that was intentional, where you didn't really need to know what those sound effects were if you didn't speak Japanese, but you kind of got the idea. You can kind of infer what they are. But there again is like another cultural difference than Western audiences are used to. I think that Peach Momoko is a little bit of at a disadvantage here, because if she came out with this story, and we'll go through the whole thing, but if she came out with this story and it wasn't under the banner of X-Men, and it was just her own thing, an original creation, I think probably audiences would be a little bit more willing to ride with her and, kind of go with her on her journey. But if you slap the word X-Men, and in this case, Ultimate X-Men, on the title, and there's all these Ultimate books coming out right now, you have a certain expectation as an audience of what you're going to get. And I think that disconnect in expectation is where some of that negative reaction came from. So it's setting up the character here, Hisako. So this character, and you
nice,
can see from
Cranberry.
the cover, has this
You watch them on
armored
YouTube?
being around here. So
Or
she is actually the
where do you watch them?
character
The
Armor
Japanese creators.
from, I think she was created by Joss Whedon and John Cassaday many years ago. Her name is Hisako Ichiki, and her mutant name is Armor. So that's cool. She was always Japanese as she was written, and it's kind of cool to put her in the hands of a Japanese artist and see what she would do. So they set up, this character Hisako. She's talking about her graduation, and then this girl comes, hands her diploma, kind of plays a trick a little bit on her. And you get this sense that like Hisako is an outcast, that nobody really likes her. One of the things that Peach does, and she did this in her Demon Days and Demon Wars books as well, is she brings in these cultural things. So in this particular case, there's a button here that the girl hands to Hisako. As a reader, coming in cold, I was like, what is that? What is this button about? And there's no explanation really. So you don't, already from this point, you're like, what is that? Well, actually, when you get to the back, they have
Cranberry
what's
says
this
you
called
agree with the
a
Ultimate X-Men point.
lexicon.
Yeah. It's really loaded
of
to say this is an Ultimate
explanations
X-Men book, so your
of certain
expectations are
imagery
already at a
that
certain
she uses
level.
in the book. And one of the things she talks about is the second button. So I guess when you hand the second button on a boy's uniform to a girl, it's closest to their heart. And so there's like, oh, I like you. And they give it to girls they have crushes on. Well, how are we supposed to know that? And, if we don't grow up in that culture, we don't know that. So I feel like, and I didn't find out about it until I got to the back of the book, but it already set me up with a little bit of confusion. And then when I got back here, I was like, oh, that's what it's about. So I kind of wish that this lexicon, and there's a bunch of different pieces of information that are explained back here that pertain to what's going on in the story. But I kind of wish that they had inserted that lexicon up front at the beginning, so that it already set us up and gave us a context of what we were looking at. If you hold the reader to this assumption that they're going to understand something and they don't, they're going to walk away like confused until you explain it. And in this case, it's at the very end of the book. So if I were them, I would have put that explanation up front. And yeah, it would have taken a page, but you could have done it in a way that wasn't, didn't turn you off when you turned the first page, but also
Mark's
gave
music
you the information
obsession
you
says
needed to
when you
set
talk
up to
over yourself,
understand
it's
the story.
creepy. It is.
I love Peach Momoko's color choices, her watercolor technique. I love how you can see her hand and all her artwork, where you can see where the colors bleed. You can see her mixing the tones and the shading. You can see her pencil lines and the watercolor mix. So I love that about her work. I really love that she does her own colors as well. This was a panel which I thought could have helped to be composed a little bit differently. So Hisako is sitting at this, I'm assuming
Hey,
it's
awesome
like a
one.
temple,
Welcome.
or,
I haven't seen you in a while. How you been doing, man?
Some sort of like structure.
Wednesday,
She's
Monday
sitting there
live.
pondering.
Yes.
And then she looks over and she sees
My
something
Monday,
here,
Wednesday
this
comics.
little bit
Live.
here. I was confused what was going on there, and I was a little bit confused as to what I was supposed to be looking at. I didn't know if they were like mushrooms or what. And from my understanding of looking later, they're like a little like remembrance stones or something. So I feel like they could have brought down that horizon line a little bit more and made it clearer what what this little thing was. And then they kind of cut off her eye a little bit, so I wonder why.
This is a
why
horrible
they cut off
drawing.
her
Sorry,
head at
guys.
the top here. Like if they just
Horrible.
brought down her eyes, she could see clearer what it was she was supposed to be looking like. Just open up that space a little bit more, so we could be clearer of what. Don't put a tangent here like I did. But yeah, just clearer of what she's looking at. Was a little bit lost here, and the watercolor kind of blended in there. So then she sees this guy standing there, and she's like, wait, what happened? Who's this guy? And she kind of shakes her head. And here's another panel which I felt like could have helped with a little bit clearer setup. You get it. You get that he's here, but it's really jammed in there. So they could have, I think, just a little bit of a compositional tweak would have helped.
John, yes, it did look like toast. Thank you.
Open up
Mushroom toast. Not the tangent.
character.
Yeah, don't draw the tangent. I didn't think it would have worked if I pulled out whiteout, though. See, this is why I don't like drawing on stream. It's too nerve-wracking.
He's crammed in a little bit there. It's just kind of jammed in there. So just a little bit more clarity to see him better.
Also, one says not showing the
Can we get the
eyes forces
close-up
focus
here?
on the
One of the
on
things I
object.
thought
Let me
was-
pause on that. That's a great point. I really like that observation. Hold on one second. Just want to try something. That's a really great observation. What I will say to that, though, is I feel like, let me backtrack just a second. I feel like, let's see if I can get to that panel. Is it here? Nope. Here. I feel like they should have not, like, it's so tight on where her eye is, right at the edge, and there's too much tension there, visual tension there. So if they were gonna, if like you said, I guess my choice would have been, if they're gonna not show the eyes and just have you focus on the subject, then I would have probably cut the eyes totally out of it and just like cropped it a little differently. But right now her eye is like really pinched up there at that corner, and so it's just like this weird, I saw half an eye and one eye and this weird tension up there. So I didn't think it was the greatest solution for that. And because it was such a key story point at that moment, I got a little lost. Okay, cool. Got that. The eyes serve as a nice line to the focus. So that's kind of where I was leaning towards as far as showing the eyes. I feel like to give us that she is looking at it, then we needed to kind of clearly see that that's what she was looking at. Even her head, if you think about it, her head should be turned a little bit more so that we get a clear idea that she's looking. Right now, it just sounds like she might be listening for something as opposed to looking at it. Not enough release. The one eyes panel. From a distance, her hair looked like her legs below. From a distance, her hair looks like her legs below panel. Is that in the current panel or? Oh, yeah, I see it right there. I see that on the left side. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's really crazy, right? Like tangents can really kind of mess with your head. You can use them to your advantage, but when you do these like kind of graphic connections, but it can also mess you up. All right, cool. Let me fast forward to where we were here, somewhere around here, and then play. Great, all great comments, guys. Love it.
A little bit of a compositional tweak would have helped open up that character.
She's using the eyes on the back of her head. That's what Emo Trash says.
Instead, he's
Also, one
crammed in
says
a
next
little
week
bit
EFAP
there.
the stream.
Just
kind of jammed in there. So just
Like
a
a
little bit more clarity.
screen within a screen with a screen. I just watched Inception last night with my son, which is one of my favorites. Amazing movie,
better.
but yeah, it's an Inception EFAP.
Then we get the close-up here. One of the things I thought could have had a little bit of a better choice was the font of this character talking. It's hard to read sometimes. I had to like look really close at it. It's nice. I love how the treatment of the word bubble, this like hairy, creepy, ghosty kind of texture that she puts on it is awesome. And this goes along with the word bubbles. But the actual font itself is really thin and spindly. I get why they picked it, but it is hard to read in some panels. He's basically saying like, hey, I know who you are. I know you're a friend of this boy. He hands her this red stone, this red talisman or icon, which if you look at it closely is the same red as this. And then there's a little character in the middle of it. So it's kind of foreshadowing the armor aspect of her power. And then the story continues. He's talking about how she really knew this boy, was really good friends with this boy. He was the one who gave her that little trinket, and they were good friends. But then we get from here, he died. And I love how the colors go like grays, gets really depressing here. She goes super abstract and with these side characters. So we get this sense like we don't know who these people are, but they're tormenting him. So it's nice. It's nice like posing. It's nice use of stylization to communicate something bad is happening to this kid. Things that I've noticed with Peach Momoko's artwork, that she loves horror, and that's always pretty much in everything I've seen her do. There's some sort of horror component to her storytelling, and this book is no different. This ghost character is basically saying that, hey, you could have stopped this from happening. You could have stopped him from dying, but you didn't. And that's why you are an outcast at school, because you're so guilty you don't want to go back to school. And so she's getting that. She's tormented by the reality of it, the truth of it. It's really eerie, creepy. It's awesome. It's very non-Western comics. So it's really interesting to see this in a mainstream superhero book. This was another kind of cultural Japanese thing where she says, what is this here, to this piece of paper. We have no idea what that paper is. And there's no like close up on it either. So that left me a little bit confused. But this is a great moment here. So she's kind of like, ew, whatever that is. And she backs up and there's this green shoe that taps her on the head. And then the next panel, we see this,
I love this spread.
Floating, freakish character. Love this rendering of this face floating above her head, and she freaks out. This is a great composition, great panel. There's some, stylization here that's very common in manga comics. And then Hisako just takes off running. She's still got the talisman or the icon or whatever. But this reminds her of her friend. I got a feeling, just based on this angle and the perspective and the way that the body is here, that he hung himself, is my hunch. Which is kind of morbid, but that's what's being communicated here at least. So she takes off, and then she gets this voice in her head telling her, like, why are you running away? You're the one who told me
John
not to
says,
run.
do ghosts ever bring good news or positives?
And then there's a panel
That's a good
here
point.
where she's biking home.
Think of
and it's a dark road, and then we see this car careening towards her.
Casper the
I kind
Friendly
of wish
Ghost,
I wish the
maybe?
lighting was a little bit more dramatic. It is already dramatic, but I wish it was like darker, and we really saw the impacts of the high beams on her. And then she freaks out. The driver, this amazing driver, he's like sweating, and he looks angry though. And then her armor power comes out, which is a cool moment, and protects her from the car that's about to hit her. It's a pretty cool moment there. Then she realizes that she's not hurt. She's still holding the talisman, this great storytelling thing. Like, that's kind of this component. She looks up and sees the armor I don't know if he's like waving at her here or what, but the next panel he disappears. And he's gone.
Awesome One says,
And
the Holy Ghost
crashed car is
Touche.
in front of her. She's not hurt.
Touche.
And she kind of has a little bit of a dialogue here saying like, that's when my life changed, never be the same. And then the next day she's at home. There's the car that got in the accident's on the news, and she's just shivering to herself in her own room. So something's up. Something centered around this. Gets back on her bike. This is a very, like, I see this a lot in like Miyazaki movies or all sorts of Japanese anime movies of kids on bikes, like in these environments. This feels like it could be in a Miyazaki movie. So for sure, it's like a cultural thing, something that is very familiar in Japanese culture.
Look at that grandma on
Then
the
she
top,
goes back to
top
that
panel
site where she was
with the
at,
chopstick in her
where
mouth.
she first saw that
Awesome.
ghost. There he is back again. And he's just kind of floating there. And he basically says, oh, you dropped your diploma, which kind of started this all at the beginning. And she confronts him. She's like, what are you doing? Like, why are you here? What are you trying to tell me? And he starts getting threatened by that. And he's saying that I think he's pointing the finger a little bit at her of like, you're the one who caused your friend to die. Then that power, the armor power, reemerges from her. So it seems like what's being set up is every time she's threatened or under attack, this armor power manifests. As long as she's holding, I'm assuming as long as she's holding that talisman or that thing that her friend gave her. So this is more kind of Japanese horror imagery attacking her. Peach Momoko loves these tentacly kind of creatures, spiritual creatures. I've seen this in some of her other work. This is pretty cool. The armor character like grabs it and squeezes it, kind of captures the ghost and protects her from it. And she's just trying to forget. She's like, it's all a dream. It's all a dream, a dream. He says, this is not a dream. You think your friend's death is a dream? She's just battling it out with this ghost, to the point where she throws that red talisman and it drops on the ground. And then we see a callback to those green sneakers from before, which is her friend's sneakers. It's a great storytelling device there. This is an amazing moment. It's her mom calling and say, where are you? I just found out that at the high school,
Get a load of this panel, this last panel on the left side.
The coach of your friend who
intense.
died, he was just found killed. He's just hanging. And this horrific scene here, you just see the feet dangling down, but this horrific scene of somebody discovering his body. There's all these little, I don't know if you can see, there's all these little like Japanese characters here. I don't know what they are. Be interesting to know if they are part of the plot or if it's just decor. But yeah, this was a very impactful panel here. But you can see it's just like, I mean, we're talking about suicide here in an X-Men book. Very dark high school suicide kind of story. Not what you would really expect when you look up Ultimate X-Men #1. So she finds, I got similar kind of feel. I don't know if you guys read Fall of the Mutants in New Mutants way back in the 90s. But they had one of the main characters, Doug, who was Cypher. He's kind of this happy-go-lucky. He had a lame mutant power, and everybody kind of poo-pooed on his character because his power was just languages. He could translate any language. But they killed him in Fall of the Mutants, and it was a really heavy storyline, really dramatic, and not what you would expect from an X-Men affiliated book. But I get a similar feel when I was reading this story from it. I mean, similar in a sense that it was just really heavy material that you don't expect from a superhero book. News, her friend disappears, and then this ominous cloud starts forming up in the sky. And Hisako is like, what is going on? What do you want? And she kind of clings to that talisman there. And that's the end of issue 1. And then, like I had mentioned earlier, here's the lexicon that kind of explains some of that imagery, and then the preview for issue 2. So I think the underlying thing here is what people were expecting out of an X-Men book and what Peach Momoko delivered are different ends of the expectation meter. If you look back at Peach Momoko's earlier work and the work that she's already done for Marvel, the tone and the story in this doesn't surprise me. As a matter of fact, it's like this is pretty consistent to the work that she's done already. So I think for people to expect her to do like a full-on out superhero book, and let's see like Wolverine in a Peach Momoko style, let's see Cyclops in a Peach Momoko style, I think that is what people were hoping for, and she didn't deliver that in the first issue. She's taking this very, very obscure Japanese character and building a horror story, a sad story around her. What I was saying at the beginning of this, where my feeling is if she came out with this story not under the banner of Ultimate X-Men, I think it would probably have gotten a better response. So who's at fault for this? I don't think this is Peach Momoko's fault. I think this is pretty consistent with the kind of stories she's known to tell, and it's very true to her culture, which I would hate for her to not put into her own work. Should it have been set up a little bit better? Should she have maybe been given a different book instead of Ultimate X-Men? Maybe. But yeah, I don't put any of the fault on her end. Now, did she know she was doing an Ultimate X-Men book? For sure she did. And what I've read from her is that give her some time, like she's kind of building up to some stuff. So who knows? We'll see what happens at the end of this run if she kind of delivers on the idea that this is an X-Men book versus just an armor book. Yeah, we'll see. Okay, so that is the review part of the video, but I still have some more stuff. But let me just catch up here on the chat before we jump into the like latter third of the video. Let's see. Cranberry Landry says probably looks like. I'm assuming you're about the suicide thing. Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's kind of clear. We're talking about the Holy Ghost here. John, have you ever seen the Bible Project's video on the different spiritual beings? You should check that out. It's one of my favorite videos that they did, but they explain different spiritual beings in the Bible and their different manifestations. So it's really eye-opening and awesome, an awesome explainer video on that. Awesome One says, in the 80s, kids on bikes was normal. Yeah, that's like the whole E.T., Goonies, on your BMX bike. I was on a bike daily, same. Yeah, it was really fun. So I think, probably Japan and at least the villages or the towns that they show oftentimes in manga, maybe that's more common, just being on your bike. And it's just I always see it in a lot of books like that. So John says, what suiciders rarely think of, the trauma, the discoveries. Yeah, I mean, it's just tragic all around. It really is. And I don't think they're thinking about necessarily. They're just really hopeless at that time. I don't pretend to understand, but I think there's no hope, right? So, but yeah, it can be extremely traumatic for those that are left behind. Cranberry Lander says, probably part of the plot. Japanese incorporate a lot of symbolism and callbacks into their books. Yeah. I thought of a hero with those powers, but apparently somebody already thought of it. Is it the language powers, or was it the armor's powers? Thank you. Thanks, Cranberry. Yeah, I thought it was, it turned out fun for me because I was like, oh, okay, I got to spend a lot more time and really think about parts of the book. And there's a little bit more here coming up. John says, adopting titles and audience is too much of a thing these days. She deserves her own IP. I agree. I really agree. If you're given an X-Men book, would you turn that down? Very few people would, especially one this big. I think it was just the expectations of what people were hoping for in an X-Men book to come from her were totally different from what she delivered. So yeah. Cranberry Lander says, Japanese love slow buildups, which lead into bombastic action. And I think, yeah, well, we're going to talk about her response in a second here. So I think that's kind of in line with what she's doing. Mark's music obsession. Well, guess I'm going to get back to the construction project. Good stream, Rocky. Hopefully I'll get push notification. I hope you do too, Mark. I will be publishing this video public after I'm done with this stream, so you can catch the rest of it. But thanks for coming in. Hope you have a good day, man. Awesome One says, suicide is actually very high in Japan as singleness has plagued the land, and many men have secluded themselves from lack because of lack of opportunity, and the culture only accepts excellence. Yeah, I'm not a huge cultural history buff, but it'd be fascinating to see how that culture formed, be it coming out of World War II or what, and why it shaped the culture in the way it did to compete, I'm sure, to be a superpower, like they really drove their culture. Yeah, it'd be fascinating to see how it's like ended up where it is now. John says, I'll look for it. Yeah, Cypher, the language powers, math as a language code, and animals communicating. Yeah. I mean, it's cool. I think just next to people with like magic, with like a demon sword and demon armor and cannonball, it was hard to compete. They kind of played him up like that, and that's probably part of the reason they killed his character, but they paired him with Warlock. I don't know if you remember that character, that alien character, Warlock. So they paired him with him. They called him like Douglock when they would like combine their selves, their beings together and work together. But it was a really tragic storyline. John says, was the Bible Project Spiritual Beings a vid or play? It's a playlist. There's it's a series, and they do different spiritual beings that are written in the Bible and kind of their explanation, and they connect them all together. It's brilliant. It's really beautiful. So yeah, check it out. You can see it on their YouTube channel. I'm sure they have a playlist for it. Cranberry Lander says, Japan coming out of World War II really pushed hard for the corporate world and for industry, and it became one of the top producers of industry in the world in shorter. Yep. Yeah, that had a lot to do with it. And it's great for the country, but then what happens to all the people in the process of getting it as quickly as they did? I think it was as quickly as they wanted to kind of ramp up their country. I think it took a toll. I'm going to head off to get ready for class. See y'all whenever I turn up next. All right, take care, Emo Trash. Have a good day. Have a good class. See you later. Okay, so so this next part is, for those of you who are still around, the next part is not too long. Just a couple things. One is a reaction video from just to give you a little context, I subscribe to this YouTube channel. It's called Comic Book Palace, and Glenn O'Leary is the owner of this comic book store. He was interviewed by Mark Miller several months ago, which blew up, went viral because of his kind of honest take on what's going on in the comic book industry, him as a lifelong comic book store owner, why it affected him, what he is seeing in the market. And there was great reaction to it. I loved it, but there's also a really negative reaction to it. People were kind of attacking him. Either way, he got pretty popular. His YouTube channel got popular, and I watch it now. And every week he talks about the books that are coming out and somewhat of a commentary of what he likes about it. But he's super opinionated, and his friends on camera that stream with him or record the video with him are opinionated as well. Just funny guys, what you would expect for stereotypical comic book store owner people. They play into the stereotype for sure. But I was taken aback. I love his videos, and I think he's really genuine. But I was taken aback at how strong of a reaction he had to this book, to the point where he called it, well, I'll show you guys the clip. You'll see the clip. And then after that, I'll show you a reaction, kind of a press release that Peach Momoko came out. And then we'll talk a little bit more about what my rankings of this book. So here we go. Here's an example of a clip of a comic book store owner and their response to this book.
Oh, so there are no X people in this book. Okay, 0.
I think.
All right. I was giving it that there was at least 1. That's it. You know, this book is even worse. This book is worse than what I thought it was. Scott, thanks a lot. Now you've really pissed me off. Okay, I'm at a loss for words. I am at a loss for words, and that's not usually me. And I don't know. I can't describe how angry I am right now.
I think they get the idea.
You think they got the idea?
It's kind of funny, but it's a little sad too. Just kind of, this is how fandom goes, but interesting to watch nonetheless. Here's a response that Peach Momoko and her team, through her translator, responded to the reaction. So it wasn't just, me hearing the reaction from one or two comic book store owners. This reaction made it all the way up high enough that she herself heard it. So here's what she said. Been seeing a lot of positive feedback, which we are relieved and making us confident. We also see some hate, which we understand and are cool about it too. Peach's art and story direction isn't for everyone, we understand. But it really questions me when we see people say, this isn't X-Men. I didn't think an X-Men book always needed the main popular characters. True, we don't have a big team yet. It is only issue 1. We are in the process of building. We think we are in the right direction with the story and will be true to Peach's voice. It might be slow, it might not be superhero-style battles, they might not be wearing suits, but they are mutants. And eventually there will be a team. So hope everyone that read it, or like it or not, give us a chance and enjoy a different vision of the X-Men. So regardless of the controversy or the fandom, both good and bad, on a particular book, I like to look at it for what it is. And there are certain categories that I tend to rank or judge books that I'm going to take this off of full screen, guys, because I can't, my face that huge is frightening. Cranberry Lantern says, after World War II, also they made them pendulum swing very hard in the other direction of their culture and history because they said that's what led them to the destruction of Japan in World War II. No. Self-loathing society, which is sad. They didn't get the idea to just take what is good from someplace else and throw in the garbage what doesn't work. Well, that's a good point. Was that Mo? He dislikes anything manga related. Was that Mo? He definitely dislikes any. Mo. I don't know who Mo is. But yeah, I know a lot of people have a very visceral reaction to manga. To each their own. Negative is not always hate. Ascribing motive to comments is often dangerous. Think creative criticism. That's really good. I love that. Oh, Mo Biggs. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah. I have only watched maybe a month. Well, no, probably more than a month's worth of videos of subscribed to Comic Book Palace. I mean, he's pretty opinionated about the kind of comics he likes. He doesn't talk about much manga books. He likes the traditional, what you would expect from American comic books. Even the superhero comics is, yeah, I don't know. He's an equal opportunity poo-poo hater. He likes stuff too, but he definitely trashes on a lot of books. But this reaction was super strong, which took me aback. All right, I'm not going to play myself full screen. I'm just going to play it partial full screen. Determine whether or not I will, because my head is too big. So the first one is story, which involves the writing. In this particular case, out of a scale of 1 to 5, I'm going to try a scaling system. I don't know if I'll stick with this, but for the sake of argument, on a scale of 1 to 5 for this book, I'd say probably I'd give this story a 3. I like the idea. I like the setup of the horror and the backstory, how she writes it. I think there is a little bit of a translation gap that takes me as a reader a little bit more to understand and kind of get in line with what she's trying to share. That being said, it did take me a little bit. I'm going to hide my camera too so that you don't see two of my heads. To get into the story. And I'm still here, though. I'm intrigued to find out where it goes. I'm intrigued to find out what's going to happen to this main character and how it leads into introducing more characters. Total side note, I was looking up Armor's backstory before I started reading this book, and I guess in the original story she actually had a friend who was also a mutant, and his name was Wing, and his mutant ability was to be able to fly, and he actually killed himself in the original story. So I don't know if this character in Peach Momoko's story is supposed to be Wing as well. in the original story, he's not Japanese. He's not a classmate. So I don't know if she's just playing on that, but yeah, in the original story, Wing, I guess the plot was that there was some sort of serum or something that would remove a character's mutant ability. So that was like supposed to be a good thing, like to take so that you're not a mutant anymore. But some mutants did not want to take it, so there's this whole back and forth with it. And the character Wing, I guess, took it, and he lost his powers. And his power was to fly, and he realized that he didn't want to lose that power. And he was tormented with trying to get that power back. And then eventually, maybe it wasn't really suicide, but he and I didn't read this book, I just kind of read a summary, but eventually it sounded like he put himself in a position. He went to the danger room and said, like, if I jump here, I think my power is going to come back. And he did, but the power didn't come back and he died. And so it was this whole tragic thing with his character. I don't know if that's connected to this book, if that was an influence on this book, but there was a lot of similarities that I thought were interesting. Cranberry Langer says, I think some of the people who complained about the Peach Momoko comic aren't realizing that American comics are dying, and this is probably a last gasp for Marvel to get in on the manga audience. Yeah, I think that they're trying to appeal. And Peach Momoko, I mentioned this a little bit later, is that I feel like she's a great bridge between American comics or Western comics and Japanese comics. So yeah. Maybe it was a little too far for people to have her on this book, but yeah, I mean, I think there's great things about both. I love both. So to say one's better than the other and poo-poo on one because it's not what you're hoping for and what you're used to, yeah, it's all kind of crazy. DC and Marvel are trying to appeal to the manhwa audience. Yeah, I heard too that I think it's DC. They're coming out with digest-sized versions of some of the popular graphic novels. So like I think Watchmen and like Batman Year One, those kind of stories, they're going to come out with like manga shape or manga dimension digest sized versions. I actually saw, I think it's probably going to be the same format I saw when I was in Paris. They had some that were already out and I didn't buy it because I'm like, well, they're going to come out with an American version eventually. But it was interesting to see. It's that kind of portable size for comics all in one shot as opposed to individual floppy issues. So we'll see. We'll see how that does. 3. Yes, it is my opinion. Yes. See, that's why I hate getting into the idea of like ranking things or anything, but I don't know. We'll see how it goes. If I get too much conflict, I'm cutting it because I don't like it. It's all right. John says, since American comics love to claim manga sales in their own numbers, it makes sense. They can't play that game forever. Yeah. People have different tastes, and I didn't read this book. Yeah. Different tastes? Don't tell the... I like American and MAGA books. I wonder if that's a typo or what. Let me know. Watchman. Yeah, Watchman. Okay, let's finish this up. It's kind of an interesting connection. The second category that I like to look at is the world or the genre of a particular book. So I would rate, again, in a scale to 1 to 5, I would give this a 3 as well. I like her establishing it in a middle school world, but also giving us a snapshot of like the culture and the ghost story genre of it. I'm not a big horror fan. I've mentioned this a number of times. So that'll only carry me so far, but I liked it, and I thought she created the mood and kind of supported the mood of that pretty well in this book. The third category that I look at are the characters. Do I like the characters? Do I attach to the characters? Do I relate to the characters? In this particular book, I'd probably give it, on a scale to 1 to 5, a 2. I don't really connect with Hisako's story that much. The character of the ghost, he's also, you know, he's okay, he's creepy, but it's not somebody I'm like, ooh, I want to know more about that ghost character, really. So, yeah, I personally am not that super connected or invested in the characters. Even the original character of Armor, I wasn't that into as well. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. I'm definitely interested in new characters she might introduce. But if it's just this character for several issues, I might not totally last on it. So the final category that
It was funny.
I look at, and it's kind of obvious, is the art style, the art in general. I would rank this book as a 4. I think Peach Momoko is a phenomenal artist. I love that she does everything, that she's her own penciler, inker, designer, colorist. I love that she does this traditionally. I think she's really good at what she does, and she's got a whole style that's so recognizable and very different from anything out there. Anything that she touches or puts out there in comics, I'll always look at it. I might not buy it all the time, but it will definitely catch my attention. So I think that that unique kind of voice is really cool. I think that she is bringing in an audience that might not normally look at superhero books into
Hey, Mr. Monkey Boy, good to see
Marvel
you.
universe. These are people that, like, maybe they grew up on manga and they love that style and they love the look of Japanese art, and she has that, but now she's bringing them into the mainstream comic audience, a Western comic audience, and I really love that mix. And I think, you know, she's a great bridge for people to like both. And I think there's also an edge to her work. She's not just there's been many artists, many Western artists, many Japanese artists who have a manga style, but she brings an edge to it, and I think that's that horror component coupled with the traditional watercolor look and feel to her work that is very unique. So I rank her art style very high, and it's why I pick up the book. So I think all that being said, I will definitely pick up issue 2 coming out and see where this goes. All those buckets kind of have to hit and be consistent for me to keep up with a series, but this one definitely gave me
I gotta reserve
enough
my
fuel
5s, man.
to want to see where it goes and pick up the next issue. Ultimate X-Men #1 by Peach Momoko. Hope you enjoyed that review. When I edit this, I'll see if this worked or not. But I hope you enjoyed that. We'll try and do this again next week. Try the same thing with bringing out the books and having you guys vote on them. But it was really fun for me to do that part of it, and hopefully this video turns out well enough that it was worth it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and
Okay, we don't have to see the like, subscribe stuff. Let me switch here. Hey, close this window. Got too many windows open. Hey, Mr. Monkey Boy, I have something for you if you're interested. If you want to hang around a little bit, I have something to show you. Something that might rhyme with Schmesserne. I put it aside. I'm like, I gotta show that guy. But thanks for popping in. Just see. John says, Rocky, when you edit your vids, do you just close your eyes when your face is on screen? I should. I put a bag over my head when I'm editing the face stuff. Ding. So we watching you, but we not watching you. Yes, I know it's confusing. I didn't want to have two of. I figure you guys can only take one of my big heads on screen at a time. A big head, little head, too much. That's over the limit. So much wadding. 5 is a high score. It is. So that's why I got to reserve my 5s for. There's a handful of artists that I will give a 5 for art. I honestly really do like her work. So 4 is a high honor, but yeah, I got to reserve my 5s for when it's like every time people say 100%, I am 100% behind you. And then, later on they'll have a conversation. They'll say, I am 150% in. So it's like
it loses a little bit of the impact if I'm always throwing out fives. I'm a very, you know, critical. I have a critical lens, so I'm holding back on the fives. It was worth it. Good video. Thanks, Cranberry. Yeah, I thought it turned out pretty cool. I was pretty excited to have how that edit came out and just the commentary that came out of it, adding in a few more of the bits. It did take a little longer than normal videos, but, you know, it's more interesting to me. After I watched it again, I was like, oh, yeah, this is a lot more interesting rather than just showing this is what I got. Cool. So, yeah, we'll try it out. We'll see how it goes each week. Hopefully I can keep it up and more videos will come out of it. We don't care. Stop being self-conscious. Okay. All right. I'm going to put 3 of my big heads on, and then we'll see what you say. Comrade Sammy says, you can give me a 5. My artwork's great. You get a 5. All right. I'm reserving my 5 for Comrade Sammy. For all of you, you get it. The chat gets a 5. John says, what are really quickly. Yeah, so that's the video. I will post it. I'll publish it public after this is done. And now that Mr. Monkey Boy showed up in the chat, let me see if I can do this without blowing something up. I will do a bonus round. Where were we? Side by side? Oh, shoot. That's not showing up. Overhead? Ah, shoot. That's not showing up. Why not? Darn it. I think it's like, well, I'm not going to get into the technical, but I'll show it to you this way then. I wasn't prepared for you showing up. I should have been. But here we go. I know that you always ask for bande dessinée, Mr. Monkey Boy, to see new bande dessinée. This is a new one that I'll show you. I don't even remember where I got this, to be honest. Oh, I think I might have gotten it. No, where did I get this? That's scary when I don't know where I get this, but it didn't come new. I've had it, but I haven't looked at it in a couple months. And I really wish I could do overhead so it was a little bit more in focus. But yeah, it's this book called GOLIGO. Speaking of manga style, it does have a manga style, but the artist is a European artist. I think he's French. Oh, Gobi. That's right. So Gobi, oh my goodness. Gobi is an artist. I did not prepare to talk about this because there's quite a bit of backstory with him. He was part of a collective, which I can't remember the name of the collective. Let me see if it says here. I don't think it does. Anyway, there was these guys. Maybe I discovered their work maybe about 10 to 15 years ago. And there was a collective of 3 artists. They were French artists who had I guess it was an animation studio, but I don't think they really produced animation. They were more like designers and character designers, directors. I don't think they actually produced the animation themselves. So they would get hired on projects to do like concept, visual development. And Gobi is one of those artists. And the thing I loved about his style was it was like this Euro-Japanese style. And he himself, I believe, is French. So, but he has done crazy good stuff. He works in video games, and I've seen him do concept on a lot of animated things. Again, I'm not 100% prepared to share all the stuff on his. I'll remember it for maybe future streams or something. But he's done a lot of visual development work on projects that I know that some of my friends worked on, but also like animated projects that I'm sure many of you have seen before too. But so he produced this book. What year did he produce this book? 2013. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I got this from Stuart Ing Books, which is a LA-based comic book store. And Stuart Ing brings in a lot of like imports. He's a huge bande dessinée fan, and so he goes to Europe very frequently during the year, and then he'll bring back a lot of imports, and he'll get imports shipped here. He sells a lot of Mobius stuff. So yeah, I think I got this from his store. I visited his store once in LA, in SoCal. So yeah, this was kind of a cool thing. I thought of you when you were like, oh, bande dessinée, and I thought of you with this book. I thought it would be neat to share. I'll throw the link in the description of this video so you can see if you can find it if you're interested. Cool. John says kind of chibi. Yeah, he does have that, but he's an incredible designer, this guy. And all the guys were, but I think Gobi, he does the most comic book work than the other guys did. So yeah, this looks totally straight out of Cowboy Bebop. This character here. It's fun. Fun stuff. Fun art style. Fun colors. Sorry my overhead camera didn't work, or I'd be able to show it to you a little bit better. But yeah, stuff. Cranberry Langer says 5s all around. Nice. Sounds like this BD is going to be part 1 of 2. All right, cool. Yeah, Comrade Sammy, I think, the planets are starting to align. You need to get this stuff out there, get this artwork out there. We need to see it so that we can give it 5s. We can high five and we can give it 5s. John asks, Rocky, do you speak French? No. Is that French for no? No. Oh, my phone's ringing. Anyway, that's a good segue to time to go. But no, I don't speak French. What's the point of showing if you're gonna? I know. Sorry, I wasn't expecting Mr. Monkey Boy to show up, and then when I was setting up my camera, but tech problems, so it didn't show up. It would have been better if I could have done the overhead camera, but I will be more prepared next time, guys. All right, so that was it. Thanks everybody for showing up. My name is French. Kind of. It's actually Spanish based, but there's Roquefort cheese, which is French. So yeah, I'll take that. I wish I could be French. I love it. All right, everybody. Thank you for showing up. John, Comrade Sammy, first in the chat, Cranberry Langers, Emo Trash, Mark's Music Obsession, Awesome One, Mr. Monkey Boy 1969, all of y'alls. You guys were amazing. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed that video. Like, subscribe, comment, yada yada. Smash all the buttons. Hopefully the notifications will start working better for you, Mark. But yeah, I will publish this video right after the stream, and I'll see you guys around. Hopefully Wednesday we'll have some new books to go through, and Lord willing, I will do a live stream vote for which books to do the closer look. Do you guys like that name, Closer Look? Is that a good name? I don't know. Let me know. All right, take care, everybody. I'll see you later.